Welcome to the Open to Hope show in partnership with the Compassionate Friends. I'm your host, Dr. Heidi Horsley, and I'm here today with my friend and co-host, Alan Pedersen. Hi, Alan.
How are you, Heidi?
Good, how are you?
I'm terrific. With friends today. This isn't even like doing a show. This is like hanging out with friends around a little campfire or something.
I love that.
I know.
I've never done a show like this before, I have to tell you, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, you know what? And I thank you for letting me steal the topic today because I kind of wrestled it away. But I just thought with this group we have here today, which is just a great group, all of us have something in common. We've all gone through deep grief.
Right.
And have spent a lifetime working, helping people going through loss. But we all do it in very different ways. And so I thought with our friends here today, Mitch Carmody and Allie Franklin Sims, what a great bunch of information to talk about the different things we do and how it helped us. Because really service, I believe service is one of the most healing things we can do. You know, it's kind of a cliche, healing begins with helping.
Right.
But when you look at people who do find that purpose and they're able to help others, it does help us. And we've all seen that in our lives. So I'm excited to talk to them, to share what they do, to share what you do, and to talk about the impact it's had on our grief.
I agree with you, Alan, because we've been all together for the last 15 plus years.
Yes.
And like you said, spent more than that time being of hope and being of service. And the thing that I find, I mean, my brother died when he was 17 and I was 20. He's been gone for over 30 years. And what I want to say about that is that kind of freaks people out sometimes, because they'll see me at Compassionate Friends, they'll see me at other grief organizations, and they'll say, oh my gosh, why are you still here? Are you stuck in your grief? And I'm like, no, I'm being of service now. I'm giving back now.
Absolutely.
I'm being a lifeline for others that are not as far along in their journey.
And I think what we have in common as a group here today too is having been down the road, and I'm now 17 years almost down the road since my daughter Ashley died in an automobile accident. We can look at people who are new in their grief and we can say to ourselves, well, what was it that I wanted to hear or needed to hear? What would have helped me back then? And we're able to create those resources amongst us in different ways and deliver them through a different way, but we're able to put those out there for the world. Open to Hope, I mean, there's no organization like Open to Hope in the world, which you and your family and your mom, Dr. Gloria, are such a part of creating content for. But people going through loss of any type can find videos and webinars and articles on any type of loss 24/7, 365 days a year. And Heidi, when I had my loss in 2001, there were some books in that, but it wasn't easy to just, you know, Google something and find an Open to Hope where I could sit for hours and hours when I needed to find that resource. And so I just think it's important. So I just wanted all of us to share what we do, what we do, you know, why we do it, and the impact that it's had on us. So do you want to introduce our great friends, great guests?
I'd love to. So we have Allie Sims Franklin, and Allie is the president of the board of directors for the Compassionate Friends. She's spoken all over the world. She did her first keynote at, 11? Which is amazing. Her little brother, Big A, died, and that's who she does her work, you know, in honor of. He died when he was only 1 year old, and she was 4, and she's written numerous books. And tell us what else you do, Allie. You do so many things, it's hard to...
Sure. So I'm also the executive director of the Crisis Clinic, which is a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in Seattle, Washington. We took over 255,000 phone calls last year, offering hope and support for people. So it's really something that I do every day.
You've spent your life, you've literally spent your life doing things to try to make the lives of people going through loss and suffering better. And I want to talk a little more about that. Mitch Carmody, wow. Talk a little bit about what you do.
Wow, like Heidi, 30 years, it's been 30 years since I lost my son. And I guess the biggest thing that survival and getting into thriving again was being of service. You know, and as I always say, you know, we turn our broken heart into a servant's heart. And that's what really brings us back, you know. And I learned early on that by helping others and by giving blood, I've given over 49 gallons of blood since the death of my son, which has helped some 1,200 people. So not only, but it's a legacy in honor of him. It's in service and helping other people. And it brought my heart back, because when I first gave blood, I said, oh my God, this is the best I've felt since my son died.
And is that one of the first things you did as far as being of service?
Was giving blood.
Yeah, and
Yes.
see, that's such an easy first step, something
Yeah.
that's not that difficult to do, because I think sometimes people get overwhelmed in early grief and say, how can I be of service?
Right.
And I always say, you know what, if you're allowing people to serve you, you're being of service. So to think of it that way early on.
Yes, and funny when you say that, because when you're giving blood, they are serving you. You sit in the chair, they take care of you, and you feel like you're participating in something really wonderful. So
Yeah.
it's really a win-win for me. But not all people can, by health reasons, cannot give blood.
Right.
But there's so many ways to give to other people. It's opening doors, giving people parking spots, as
Yeah.
simple as that.
And I know, Mitch, you've also spoken all over the country and done a lot of workshops and a lot of keynotes for grief organizations. So it's kind of, your service is kind of built, as Allie's has over the years, as all of ours have. You start off
Yes.
small and you just, it kind of
Right,
snowballs.
you started off with child loss,
Yes.
and then sibling loss, and then started working military loss with TAPS, and
Yeah.
with suicide loss, and I branched out. Now I'm working with seniors at senior centers and
Wow.
talking about upcoming death, you know, so that we know that we know what to expect. And I think we're such a thanatophobic society that when we go out of service, service people, being in service, are really bold. You go out and you help people, like
Yeah.
Mother Teresa. She was like, you know, she gave me the incentive to be of service, because that's
So-
all she did.
Yeah.
So you both are authors, multiple author, speakers. You're an artist. You're an executive in that field. You're a volunteer executive. You've done webinars. I mean, how do you, because I think people get overwhelmed early on
Yes,
when you talk about
absolutely.
service, because I would say to
Right.
people, not everybody can build a new set of ball fields, you know, in honor of their loved one, or a new wing to the hospital. But talk a little bit, let's just start with you, Mitch. How did you start getting into service? You said with giving blood, but how did
Well,
you start
giving blood
building
was-
it to this national work that you
Yeah,
now?
but giving blood was just something that I could do on my own, you know, and it was just something that, was passionate from myself. But in my first early years of grief, I would look through the newspaper and see where a child had died, and I would send a card to that person. It was simple as that. If you can't even, that's simple to do, is send a card to somebody. And some people I would send it was a close friend, every month on the angel day of that, it was a Monday or whatever, I would send them a card once a month for a full year. And it's just like, wow, and I could see how that helped them so much. And so when I started seeing that happen on a small scale, I said, how can I make this a bigger scale? And that's when I wrote my book, and then the book propelled me into speaking, and speaking propelled me into more speaking, and it became, I call shine by example. You can't make someone do something, you can't make them grieve like your parents did, like my mom tried to be, get over it and buck up, and I couldn't do that. But when you shine by example, people want to look at you and say, what are they doing? And because you can't push on people what to do, just make them, make it attractive to them. That, wow, I want to feel like that someday. And I think that's what we do. We get up there on the platform, people, you've survived 30 years, I survived 30 years. You think, wow, they can do it, maybe I can do it. But there is the thought, people go, my God, am I going to be doing this 30 years from now, still grieving?
Right.
But you said it on the onset. No, we're being servants now.
Right.
But it starts off maybe as our own healing. And maybe I thought it was really selfish. It was really, I was self-serving myself by doing what I did because I felt better.
Right.
But then I saw the ripple effect. And the ripple effect is in.
And how about you, Allie?
So I think for us, it was really, in the beginning, there wasn't anyone, there was no way to talk about this. People didn't, so it's been 44 years for me. So it's been a while, and people didn't know how to talk about the death of my brother, and so they didn't.
Yeah.
And so it was really about, it started just saying, we need to find a way to talk about this. We need to find a way to make it okay to say his name and to talk about him. And so then it became, how do we keep his legacy alive? How do we give back, but also prepare our world to say, what was it that would have been helpful, and how do we put that out there into the world? Instead of saying, I wish that was there and I feel bitter because it wasn't, it was really about, so what could we do as a hand up to someone who was going through the same things that we were? And so it started with, I wrote some letters to my brother that became a book, and then other folks were saying, how do I engage my teenager in talking about their grief and their loss? And so it was one little public speaking engagement here, and
Yeah.
then it was a panel, and then it was something else. I don't know that I ever intended
No.
for this to be what I did for a living. It was just how we were dealing with our own grief as a family and how I was finding a way to give it a voice.
Right.
And then what happened was, exactly like you said, kind of leading the way a little bit. People were coming up and saying, "You've given me the courage to address my own grief, to take it off the shelf. You've given me the courage to start writing my own letters, or maybe to write my own book." And so it was this idea of being a catalyst to say, in a way, that's how I'm living the legacy of my brother's life. But in another way, it started out helping myself and
Right.
began to be this ripple in the water that just went and went and went. And over time, it turned into a career and a living. But I would definitely say it didn't start out that way. It was just saying, how do I muddle through?
And that's important, because the biggest works that I see and the most successful works I see always start with just that intention of really wanting to give, as you say, that hand up. Now, we're going to have a segment later where we go outside and I get to show
Yeah,
off my
because I
angels
wanted to
across.
ask you the same question you're asking us.
All right, and I'll answer it that shortly, and then I'm going to ask you a question. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to go outside and see the angels across the USA van, and that's what I do today. But I started out, you said it very well, Allie. I just wanted to try to help people, and my focus was on families who'd lost a child, because when my Ashley died, I thought, this is hopeless, this is helpless. I can't do this. And I got a lot of help. I got a lot of support from this organization called the Compassionate Friends, and by educating myself about grief. And that's what I started saying. I said, what is it that I would want to hear? You know, when I was the most hopeless, what would I want to hear? Who would I want to go see, and what would I want to hear? And I began to work with people like Allie's mom, the fabulous Dr. Darcy Sims, and I started writing songs. I've been a songwriter my whole life, but writing songs about my experience.
Yeah.
And I began sharing them. And just like you said, those cards led to this, led to that. I put the songs out there, and people said, "Can you come? Can you speak? Can you play?" And I don't know what happened. I just took off speaking and playing for a few people, and 1,300 cities later, I
That's amazing.
drive around in this van. But I really put my focus on finding grief organizations who in their own community are trying to help people, and who can't afford to bring a national speaker into their town, and to try to work with them to make sure that they can, and so that I can go where the need is and help the people in those towns. And so I'm a man in a van with
I
a
love it.
plan. Now I want to
I
ask
love
you
it. I
a
love
question,
it.
because you fascinate me. I've known all of you for many, many years. We're dear friends. But Open to Hope, a lot of us know about today.
Right.
But I want you to talk about, because this to me just blows my mind, about what happened to you when 9/11 happened. Something happened to you that really was a turning point in your life. Can you tell that story?
Well, it probably happened a little before 9/11, but since I was in I was 20 when my brother died, you're in kind of the beginning of trying to figure out, what do you want to do with your life? Who am I? Where do I want to go? And so his death really derailed me. And when I went through a very dark time and a very existential place. But when I came out of it, I said, you know what? I'm going back to school, and I'm going to learn as much as I can professionally about grief and loss so that I can make this my career.
Right.
I mean, I already knew about it personally, but I wanted to get professional experience. So I went back to school and did that, and went, and got a couple of grad degrees. But when I was writing my doctoral dissertation, I was writing it on the sudden death of a sibling.
Right.
No surprise, because that's the only reason
Right.
I am in this field, is because of Scott. And 9/11 happened. And I was living in San Francisco, and one of my former professors from Columbia in New York called me and said, Heidi, will you move back to New York City and head up a long-term study working with firefighter families who had lost someone in the Trade Center? And I didn't even have to think about it.
Wow.
This is my calling, as it is all of ours. We didn't choose this profession. This profession chose us.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
This is
yes,
why I'm
yes.
here. This is why I'm on the earth, to inspire people that there is hope, to help people that are not as far down the road, et cetera. And so I moved back to New York City and worked for 10 years on a study with firefighter families who had lost someone in the Trade Center. And I've got to say, I worked with a research team at Columbia of 12 people. I was the only one that had had the death of a family member. And what did I bring to that research team? I normalized what was going on.
Right.
I did not pathologize loss. I did not think these families were crazy. I was able to say, wait a minute, hold on, research team. This is normal. I've been down this road before.
Right.
And I think that's so important. We understand. We've walked this path.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think it's important for us to be the voice of reality out there and say, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
This is what grief looks like.
And, you know, I think the lesson for all of us too is, yeah, you can help in your own neighborhood. You don't have to move from San Francisco to New York.
Right,
You don't have
exactly.
to live in a
You
van
don't.
down
No.
by the
You don't have
river,
to do
as
these
Miss
crazy
Farley
things.
said.
You don't have to do these crazy things,
Or
Alan.
work, 100-hour work
No.
weeks or whatever. But let's talk for a minute. What's the most rewarding thing you do, or one of the most rewarding things that you've done, and why?
There's so many. When you're in service, you get rewarded all the time.
Yeah.
So how do I disseminate it? I guess one of my favorite things is that I do portraits. I'm an artist and do hand-drawn portraits of a family member who's died, usually children. And I spend 20 hours sitting with all the photographs and make a life portrait, a snapshot of their life, so to speak. And when I give that to the parents,
That's
and they
big.
see a snapshot of that is what feeds me. When I see their reaction on their face, I know that this, like you said, the profession chose us.
Yes.
And whether it's in art or whether it's in grief or
Yes.
whatever we do, we can be a servant in anything we do.
Yeah.
And that's my special spot. I go into that space, and I'm just proud to be able to have service in that space.
How about you, Alan? What's
So as you said, I serve as the president of the board of directors of the Compassionate Friends. And when I go to a conference and I meet a family who's never been to a conference before, and they're so overwhelmed with gratitude about being surrounded by hugs and being surrounded by others, and they say, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who feels this way. I wasn't losing my mind, I was grieving. And so we can tell someone this is a natural and normal part of life when someone dies, and that grief is normal, but there's nothing like showing someone when they come to their first support group meeting, or when they meet someone for the first time, or online meet someone and say, I reached out in the middle of the night and I thought I was the only person, and instantly there was a message back saying, I gotcha, I know exactly how you feel. That's the most gratifying thing to me, because that's really what I was hoping to do. That's the living the legacy forward and saying that's how I get paid, right?
Yeah.
Well, I hear you. I will tell you, I said we'll see the van later, and people will get it when we do that segment. But actually, one of my most rewarding things is when I'm in that van, the stories that happen. And on the van, the reason I'm able to do what I'm doing is because hundreds of families sponsor my work. They put a butterfly decal, and they pay to put a butterfly decal on them with the name and hometown of their child on it. So we get a lot of media attention, and people just love the van. But I was traveling with Mitch Carmody, and I just want to share this story. Yesterday, and we'd had an event the night before, and they'd given some Valentine balloon thing out. And I'm like, Mitch, we don't really want that Valentine balloon, do we, with a candle in it and whatever? And so Mitch was heading back up to the condo to do something to come back down, and I was just working and doing something. All of a sudden, a lady comes walking up to the van with this balloon in her hand, and this Valentine balloon. And she said, what is this all about? And so I tell her what the Angels Across the USA tour is all about. She goes, oh, that is so special. And she said, well, do you think maybe someone that you might come across might want this balloon? And I said, no, I think my buddy just gave you that balloon.
Yeah.
And she said, and so I looked at her, and I could tell something was up, and I said, have you lost a child? And she said, yes, I did, many years ago. She said, and that's when she said, no, maybe somebody could use this. I said, yeah, somebody could. You.
Wow, that's
a
amazing.
gift from your child.
That's
I
very
said,
cool.
Mitch does weird stuff like that. He just randomly picked a woman out
That's
there
bizarre.
who'd happened to have the loss of a child. But I get like you, I get rewarded in so many things. But Allie, what you said is just so true. When people want to feel validated, and when anything that we do, I don't know if you all agree, makes somebody feel validated, and like you said, not so alone, that is that's priceless. What about you? What's the...
I think this is something that we all do, inspiring people and holding the hope for them, and watching as they take their grief journey from a place where they can't get out of bed to a place that they are giving workshops, They're going back to school to learn more about the grief and loss field. They are starting to do things in the community. And all of a sudden, I'm going to Compassionate Friends, and they're doing workshops, they're presenting.
Yeah.
And, I think back to where they were years ago, and I'm like, wow. And they say, Heidi, you inspired me to do that. I needed to hold on to a lifeline. I needed to see somebody that was doing it as a model, and just to know that maybe, just maybe, I could get there someday.
Yeah.
It's really rewarding to see that.
Yeah, it is amazing. So we're going to attempt something now. Never done and open to show.
I like how you're saying
Hope
attempt. This is a
television.
beautiful thing.
And Glory's not here, so she can't say no.
No.
We are going to move.
Sorry, Mom, we're doing something new today.
We're trying something. So no, we're going to shoot the next segment outside. So we want our audience to join us as we go outside and we take a little look at the Angels Across the USA van and just kind of learn a little more. And I really appreciate you having me here today and letting me showcase that. So to our audience, we'll see y'all outside in just a couple seconds.
Absolutely, Alan. Okay. So I guess let's go.
Well, here it is, you guys. The Angels Across the USA van,
Love it.
our sponsor, Open to Hope. These are the butterflies that I was telling you about, the names and hometowns of all these incredible families. And by the time 2 years is done, literally hundreds of butterflies will be on there from people all over the world.
I
We
love
have
it.
Australia.
There's my brother.
Yep.
There's
All right.
Scott Horsley
Which I love.
there. Yeah. So, yeah, it's amazing. This van has been a lot of miles. So, most commonly asked questions: how many miles are on this van? 226,000
Wow.
miles. But it's pretty amazing. This is the brand new wrap that was put on it,
I love
and we've got the heart clouds in it. And so when we roll into town, we definitely
And
get a lot of attention.
people can sponsor these, right? In
Yeah.
the name of their siblings or their children,
Yes.
grandchildren?
It's a $100 sponsorship,
Okay.
and yeah, we put the name and the hometown on there, and that just allows us to go, to whatever
That is
city.
very cool.
to
And we have
people
some
that
other
need us.
foundation support sponsors,
Yes.
like the Healing Hearts Foundation in Florida, that has been a strong supporter of the Angel Tour for many years.
Yes,
And
I
Mitch,
love
you've
Bobby.
been out there. Talk a little bit about what an Angels
Bobby.
Across USA event is like.
And it's so amazing because you see all these people, and we were talking earlier in the show when, what makes you feel good. And when you see someone, a parent, putting their child's
Yeah.
name on here, the look in their face is absolutely priceless. That's why we do this work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, so I love doing it. I encourage grief organizations of any size that think, hey, we can't do a program, we can't bring this guy in here, we can't afford to do this, to think again, because these families right here allow that to happen, and they want that to happen. And so they pick up the slack where these organizations can't. So I encourage any grief organization, whether it's through a church bereavement team, a chapter of the Compassionate Friends, the Bereaved Parents of the USA, a hospice organization, we stop in all of those places, and we'd love to come and do a presentation for
And
you.
the thing about the presentation, Alan, is it's you laugh, you cry, you find hope,
Yes.
you find healing, you feel better. I mean, I've been to your presentations and your workshops. People will leave feeling better, and you also sing, and you're a phenomenal singer and
Thank you.
songwriter.
I can tell you from my experience that these are like my children when I get them. I mean, I really feel like I'm taking them on a journey.
Yeah.
And when we're at Disneyland, we get a picture at Disneyland. Every mountain range, we'll be in every state. And and that's a pretty special feeling.
Like, remember the last tour when people would call out, "Oh, my kid's in Disneyland!"
That's
cool.
And they're excited about how they've traveled across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, the last thing I would say about it is I'm also touched. I'll be at a hotel or something, and I try to park where I can always see the van, and to see people who will just come up on their own
Yeah.
and just reach out and touch these decals because they know what that represents. So, hey, I'm glad we got to stand outside here
too. Me
together,
too.
and this has been a fun show, and thank you for letting me show off
Oh
the Angel
yes,
Van
and if you
co-host.
want to book Alan, just go to Angels Across the USA Tour, and please do. You
And
will
I'm going
not
to
regret
sing I Chase Butterflies. That's how we're going to end the show.
I love it.
With a song called I Chase Butterflies. This road gets lonely since you've been gone. The only thing to console me is I'm sure our love lives on. It's deeper than flesh and bone. It's stronger than time. And it keeps you close to me. When I open up my mind, so I chase butterflies, I reach for falling stars, I look for any sign from where you are. I call your name out to the wind, so I can hear your voice again. Death can't keep us apart, 'cause I know you by heart. You're my heart. Well, people think I'm crazy, 'cause I talk to you this way. Oh, but you amaze me with the words I feel you say. You're the inspiration that keeps me strong. I know you're just beyond my touch, but you are never really gone. So I chase butterflies, I reach for falling stars, I look for any sign from where you are. I call your name out to the wind, so I can hear your voice again. Death can't keep us apart, 'cause I know you by heart. You're my heart. Yeah, I chase butterflies. Baby, you're my heart. I'm gonna keep on chasing butterflies. You're my heart.